Good morning, Congressman Troy Carter. How are you, sir?
Good morning, team. How are you?
Fabulous,
Well,
fabulous,
well,
fabulous.
thank you for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure.
Well,
Pleasure is mine, ma'am. Pleasure is mine. Great to be with you both.
all right. Well, we always have stuff going on, and I know we got a couple of things in particular that we want to get to for sure. But what is going on in Washington with these confirmations? And I know that's in the Senate, but I know you all in the House are watching that with some of the confirmations where even Republicans are expressing some concern.
Well, it continues to be a slap in the face of the American people and to the process where this president continues to put people up for federal appointments who are woefully partisan, woefully ill prepared. You know, there once was a time that these confirmations mattered, that people had to have the requisite background clearances and to be able to answer questions about where the loyalties lie to a president or to the Constitution. And these people come before the Senate for confirmation. They don't even try to hide it. They make very clear their allegiance is to Trump and not to the Constitution. And that's a problem. That's a problem, and it should be a problem, regardless of what party you're part of. The confirmation process that's spelled out in the Constitution is there for a reason. It's to ensure that the checks and balances are protected. And when you have people who clearly say that their allegiance is to Donald Trump, some say it outward, some imply it, some refuse to answer altogether, many of which refuse to answer the question about the 2020 election. Did Trump really win or not? It really does demonstrate the level of thumb on the scale that Trump always likes to have. And it defies what I think the American people deserve, and that is the degree of fairness through this process that people who are being sworn to an office to uphold the law, to protect justice, should be willing to admit that the Constitution matters more than one person. Many of them just don't do that.
Well, I think you referenced Jay Clayton, who was asked a very direct question, who won the 2020 election? And the man said, "I'm not going to do this with you." It's like,
right.
I mean, come on. That's a simple question to answer. Everybody knows who was elected and certified, and he wouldn't answer that question.
Because they're always auditioning with Trump, and they want to say what he wants them to. They want them to hear what Trump wants to hear, and that is that they subscribe to his theory that he really won the election. And they have this notion that if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes true. And then they actually start to believe it themselves. They've filled themselves with their own propaganda so much that they start to buy into it. And not to mention the level of disrespect. There was a time, regardless of what party you were in, you would not disrespect the U.S. Senator by giving that kind of answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you see the gross disrespect where they, yell back in hearings and refuse to answer and give snide, disrespectful remarks. It's a matter of decency. You're in essentially a higher court, and you're just, demonstrating a level of disrespect. Forget the individual, but always respect the entity, the institution, and that's been lost under this administration.
Well, we definitely want to talk about Minority Health Month and that daylight savings thing that we've been talking about for decades. Right now, we've got Alicia on the phone. Good morning, Alicia. You're on with Will Sutton, Dr. Boyles, and Congressman Troy Carter.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Congressman. I just wanted to talk to you about what happened with Lindsey Graham and the selection of his unqualified sister to fill his seat. I mean, for the president to talk about DEI, all the different inclusions that he thinks that black people are getting waved into positions and stuff, and here you have Hegseth that's firing overqualified black folk and women, but yet this woman has absolutely no history, no experience, and she's going to walk into that seat, and I'm sure the staff is going to really be running the seat, but she's walking into a check. Just the same thing that happened with Letlow. Letlow was a wife who became a widow, and they gave her his seat. This stuff has to stop. And I think it was too quiet that the sister was able to walk into Lindsey Graham's seat and looked like nobody had a pushback about it. Can you talk about that or tell me your thoughts on that? I'll hang up and listen. Have a great day.
Lord's blessing, Alicia.
Thank
Have a
you,
great
Alicia.
day. Congressman?
Alicia, I agree with you totally. Way too much, this passing on of seats just because it was a relative, regardless of the requisite experience that a person should have to take one of the most powerful seats in the country, one of 100 members of the United States Senate. Unfortunately, in this case, the Constitution allows the governor of that state to make an appointment. So it was not a matter of a vote. It was not a matter of debate. The Constitution allows, in the case of a death, resignation, or departure of the incumbent, that the governor of that said state has the ability to make an appointment exclusively, without permission from the legislature, without consent from the Senate. It's one of those constitutional allowances that allow it to happen. So there wasn't a whole bunch of pushback that could have happened. But I will tell you this: you are 100% correct that we've got to stop just appointing people to positions that they have no experience for. I mean, I don't know his sister. She's probably a very fine lady, but you're now going to have a vote on issues that impact our country and our world without any real experience on the gravity of these issues. So you bring a very important point, and I agree with you.
Okay. Well, Congressman, there are a number of things that you've been paying attention to. I'd like to move to Minority Mental Health Month. First of all, I think a lot of people may not realize there is such a thing, Minority Mental Health Month. And, of course, it's been one of the important items on your agenda. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Minority Mental Health Awareness Month gives us a time. Of course, we talk about mental health awareness year-round. People should not confuse, like when we talk about Black History Month. Black History Month is highlighted in February, but Black History Month is not just 28 days in February. It's 365 days a year. The same thing with Minority Mental Health Awareness. We highlight it in the month of heck, whatever month this is, but we the real part is to push the agenda of talking about mental health all the time, because when we advance those issues of awareness, we advance the issues of acceptance, getting away from denial, making sure that we're having adequate resources in our schools, in our communities, in our churches, making people who may have mental health issues, whether it's depression, anxiety, or what have you, to demonstrate that you're not alone, to demonstrate that, there are resources here for you. And so during this month, we push forward more awareness through our schools and churches, fraternities, sororities, to talk about it, because we've been told particularly black men, suck it up. You can handle it. Man up. Well, no, we need to not man up. We need to open up and recognize that it's okay to sometimes not be okay. We've had this conversation before, Will, where I told you my grandmother, when we were kids, she would say, "What's wrong, Troy? Are you feeling blue?" Well, that was her way of checking on our emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask our children about their emotional health anymore, even though we know that they're subject to more stuff than we've ever been subject to. Peer pressure, social media, the things that kids can be so cruel to each other, and society is even worse. So Mental Health Awareness Month gives us a chance to talk about those issues and bring awareness to what is a real issue. One of the things I'm very proud of is my Mental Health Workforce Act that I've introduced. It's moving its way through the process now, which would address the workforce shortage that we have of diversity in the mental health provider space. And what this bill does is it encourages people, but African Americans who will study, go into the areas of counseling, psychology, psychiatry, social work, to balance the scale, if you will, of competent providers with needed individual patients. And this will grant them tuition waivers if they elect to get a degree in this subject matter and then commit to practicing in the affected areas where we have those shortages of minority professionals to provide services. Because trust, particularly in areas of where you're dealing with anxiety, very personal issues, you want to be with someone that you trust and someone that you can identify with, and again, identify with you and identify with your cultural differences and the like. So we know that we have far too few African Americans in this space, and this will go a long way to balancing that playing field.
Okay. So that sounds like a fascinating, quite worthy program. Any indication that that's any of that is implemented already in Louisiana, or how can it be?
Well, we got to pass it first. I mean, we got to pass this. We got to pass the law to make it federal law that we can create the mechanism that would give tuition waiver. While we're working through that portion of it, the awareness part gives us an opportunity to constantly highlight that mental health awareness is something that people should not feel that they suffer alone. If there are 10 people in the room, 7 of them are dealing with something. But you think that you're all alone, and then you suffer in silence when you don't have to, because there are resources there that will help you with these issues. We have fully passed and funded the 988. You can dial 24/7, 365 days a year, and reach a live person who will speak to you at that bewitching hour when you may be at your lowest low and just need somebody to talk to, when you're contemplating hurting yourself or hurting someone else, or you just need somebody to hear you out. There will be a professional counselor on the line who will be able to direct you to resources. It's totally private, totally free, but there'll be a trained person on there that will be able to give you directions, resources on what you can do to get help. And I encourage people to take advantage of it. Again, it's 988. It's completely free. There's no tracking, totally anonymous. No one will ask your name. You don't have to give your name, your number, anything, but you can talk freely about those issues that may be plaguing you. And it's something I'm very proud of that we were able to fund. And now we're working on other components that will provide resources for people who need help. And the most important part of this is anyone listening, please know this: you are not alone. Your issues are not singular. Many people are dealing with things, and you can overcome it. Suicide is not the answer. Alcohol is not the answer. Drugs are not the answer. And I know that sometimes the pain that people feel is so real that they think there's no way out. But trust me, there is.
Okay, Congressman, let's talk about something that we've been talking about for decades. way back before a bunch of us was born, we had something called daylight saving time. Way back in 1918, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. In the 60s, we made it more uniform, and in 2007 we got the system that we've had since. We're on, we're off, spring forward, fall back, spring forward, fall back. Well, people may not realize this is an issue that the current Congress is taking up. Talk to us about, do we want daylight saving time or we don't?
Well, there are people who can make an argument on either side. The first part of this is that it is a policy that is well past its usefulness. The reasons it was done for farming and all these other issues don't exist anymore. So there are those who would argue that it's long past due. Twice a year, Americans lose sleep, disrupt their routine, pay the price for practices that outlived, quite frankly, its original purpose. So I support and voted for the Sunshine Protection Act, which would make daylight saving times permanent year-round. It eliminates the switch, would increase worker safety, lessen the spike in heart attacks and strokes. The follow the spring forward tradition, even reduce energy and utility bills. So, there's an advantage to having longer days. Kids get off school after having baseball practice, football practice, dance team practice, or study groups, and oftentimes are having to wait for a bus or walk home when it's dark, because it gets dark at 5:30. And if you have any after-school activities, you're going to get caught up in that. Days are longer, so kids have a little playtime when they get out of school, have a little time for activity. Parents have more time to do other things with their kids because the days are longer. You get off work at 5 o'clock, you got several more hours of daylight. Equally as important is the fluctuation going back and forth, changing. The empirical data shows that from a health standpoint, it would lessen the spike in heart attacks and strokes because of the inconsistency of when these, as you say, spring forward, back, and for, farmers and business people, it gives them more more time for productivity. So, listen, I think that people make arguments on either side of the equation. I think, in my estimation, the stronger arguments are arguments of safety and health benefit and additional time for working people to be able to spend quality time with their families.
Congressman, as an extension to that, I'm wondering, what is the ultimate holdup? I mean, it seems to be such a minor a minor issue comparable to other, deep-seated, long-standing social issues and the like that we've had to deal with. Why is this delayed or carrying over?
Doc,
I've heard it time and time again, so I'm just curious.
Doc, there's no such thing as a simple issue in the United States Congress.
Well, I agree. The sociologist in me agree. So let's just say, in part, that was rhetorical.
As much as I would like to agree with you, I will tell you that the adage that you hear, it takes the act of Congress, there's a reason for that. When people make that comment about why is it taking so long, and they say it takes an act of Congress to get an appointment with your eye doctor.
Yes.
Well, that is a part of that complexity of dealing with 535 members of a deliberative body. Sometimes takes the most simple things forever to get done.
And that said, I appreciate your response because you actually made the point that I was not directly making, but I'm interested in knowing. Given that is the case, how then do we continue to deal with apathy or, disappointment and discouragement? Because there are more, and I would say pertinent issues that people continue to deal with here at the local level in New Orleans, in the state of Louisiana and beyond. And if we cannot get a decision or advancement with something like daylight savings times, then how might we anticipate, or what would you say to people to give them some solace or sense of hope in terms of these other major issues, be it war, be it, just a litany of issues, daily expenses, and the increases and such at the gas pump or so, I'll leave it at that and wait for you.
Yeah. A part of, on a very serious note, a part of what happens with legislation, some things may be easy for some people and very difficult for others, depending on where they live, what locale they represent, and therein lies sometimes the as we refer to as the paralysis of analysis, overthinking, and what may not be as important to one part of the world becomes sometimes more important to another part of the world, and that sometimes becomes a part of the paralysis of analysis, overthinking, overstudy, putting it off, kicking the can down the road. And in the case of the daylight saving times, for example, when I was a member of the state Senate, the state of Louisiana passed the provision to have permanent daylight savings time, but it required an act of Congress to ratify it. So there's some 19 states in the union that have already passed the daylight saving times, waiting for Congress to ratify. So now, last year, the Senate passed it. The House did not. This year, the House passed it. Now it's headed over to the Senate. I suspect the Senate will likewise, in fact, they passed it unanimously, will likewise do the same and head to the president's desk. So it'll finally get there. But to go back a little deeper into your question, in the apathy among voters and apathy sometimes what appears to be apathy in Congress is different. Apathy in voters, unfortunately, are people feeling like they haven't got anything from the government, so why vote? To which my response is, it's the only tool we have to get people in office that will advance issues that are important to us. And heretofore, my brother Aaron is certainly out there listening. He's one of our great viewers and calls in often. I respect his positions. Will say, well, why we vote? It doesn't do anything for us before. Well, we got to keep voting because we have to get more of us elected who understand. Just because we have some doesn't mean we have enough. And so when we get enough people in the requisite chambers who can vote to push these issues, then we can start to see advancement. Getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100 is not enough. We need at least 218 in order to make that deciding vote to get things over. So that's why I encourage people, although you don't always see the water table change as you scoop a bucket out of the river, trust me, each time you scoop that bucket out, you're changing the water table. You may not see it, but persistence is what wins the game. And so what we have to keep doing is keep voting so we can get people that are in Congress, in mayor's offices, on city councils, in state legislatures, who will continue to push issues that we agree are simple, but some don't think it's as important as we do. So we got to get people elected to push through that.
So I'm going to give people just a little bit of context, and then we're going to talk about other things, Congressman. When I lived in Indiana, Indiana was one of the states with multiple time zones and all. So part of the state was in the central time zone, part of it was in the eastern time zone, and then there was daylight savings times observed by some counties and not others. So you could drive from Chicago into Gary, through northwest Indiana, over into northeastern Indiana, and then into Michigan, and have like 3 different times. Mm-hmm. So if you made appointments for an hour and a half drive, you have to be sure that you adjust it. And it was crazy. Yeah. But there were counties that, we're not going to cooperate, and they would do that. So just some context about how it has affected some communities in other states.
Yeah,
Congress,
real
go ahead.
quick, I think that again, and thank you so much, Congressman, for answering. I think, again, the point that I'm trying to make is really not how urgent the time switch is one way or the other, but really just the idea that I know community members are frustrated, many of which about the idea that it seems to be such gridlock in Congress, like pulling teeth almost to try to get anything done that can be felt in real time. And so these things, it seems to be one more reminder, right, of how even some things are not as urgent or crucial, or at least on the surface doesn't seem to be so deep. Even those like superficial issues can't not get through. So then what does that mean about, again, the gas? How do we navigate and get through, rises in costs in other areas and other social issues and factors that also seem to get stuck? So just trying to provide some space of hope. And maybe we can talk about what is actually happening positively that is changing, so that people can have something to hold on to and look forward to at the ground level.
So one
Well,
thing,
I can give you this one, Doc, because I think you make a very, very good point. And I'll give you this one, which I think we should all be very proud of. We just passed and is now in law, even though the president refused to sign it, it became law without his signature, the most consequential housing bill
Yes.
in our lifetime,
Yes.
certainly since the LBJ era. So that is one that you can see the system worked, and it worked for us. This is a major victory for Americans. This is the most consequential housing bill in a time when housing is at an all-time crisis. We finally have relief. And this is something that shows it took a minute, but it's done. And
Yes.
it's something I'm very proud of, and it's been, as a long-time housing advocate, recognizing the importance of home ownership and opportunities, we now have a measure in place that will go a long way to correcting what I and many others have seen as a real problem in our community as it relates to housing needs.
Yes. And you have, Congressman, you have Homeland Security
yep.
legislation you want to talk
I do.
about?
Yes.
Yes.
So, we all unfortunately remember way too much what happened on New Year's Day a few years ago. And we know that a part of that is this ever-present issue in our country with terrorism being real and cities needing to, particularly cities like New Orleans that host millions of visitors, rather it's for the Essence Festival, Sugar Bowl, Super Bowl, Final Four, Mardi Gras, the various conventions that come to town. What I was able to pass off the House floor the other day is the Homeland Security Capabilities Preservation Reporting Act. This bill requires FEMA to report how changes to Homeland Security grant funding affects preparedness capabilities for communities. In the aftermath of September 11 attacks, it became evident that cities across the state could be targets for terrorist attacks, but they lacked the capacity and resources to independently protect themselves. So we started providing resources. For more than 2 decades, we equipped our local first responders with advanced tools, equipment, and training necessary. But then we started seeing the ratcheting back of those resources under the Trump administration. And so now we're pushing to make sure that we have a regular reporting period that FEMA comes back to Congress, tells us how these cities are doing, how are we managing resources to ensure that cities are not left behind without resources to protect themselves. We know that cities across the country are strapped for finances because they're limited on how they can raise revenues. Of course, we see the battle going on right now between the state and city. which is a very unfortunate one because no one wins when our state and our city is embroiled in battle. Because when the city fails, the state fails. There's no such thing as one part of the team winning. Either the team wins or the team loses. And Louisiana, New Orleans, and all of the other parishes were all a part of the team. So this notion that we're going to teach New Orleans a lesson, come on, man. We're all in this together. And so I say that to say because if the state is threatening to withhold money from the city, all the more reason why federal government needs to be there to step up to protect, particularly in the area of homeland security, that we are protected from terrorist threats that we know happen more frequently than they ever did before.
All right. Well, I know that you've got some other things to take care of, representing the good people of the 2nd Congressional District. We really appreciate you making time for us yet again.
Yes, thank you so much.
And we'll be watching for developments and talking to you again soon. And I'll be touching base with you offline about a couple of things.
Fantastic. Look, God bless you both. God bless WBOK. Always a pleasure to be with you and the wonderful listening audience. God bless you. Keep doing the Lord's work.
All right.
Thank you.
Lord's
Likewise.
blessings. Have a great day.